Welcome to America's Heroes Group.
America's Heroes Group Roundtable with partner and sponsor Tabak Law Firm, LLC. Tabak for the payback. Make sure you go with them because they are on the money and they make sure that veterans are being taken care of properly. Today is Saturday, February 19th, 2022, and February is Black History and American Heart Month. We just went through Valentine's Day. Take care of that heart, your loved ones' hearts, and your own. Our host is Cliff Kelley. I'm the co-host, Colonel Dr. Damon Arnold. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith. Digital media producer is the iconic Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. And today we have someone I love to talk to all the time, and this is Irelan Karas. She is the Veterans Benefit Attorney with Tabak Law Firm, based out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, with offices located across the United States. Today's discussion is Black Veterans Disparities in Eligibility and Qualifying for Their Benefits. How are you doing, Monica? It's always a pleasure speaking to you.
Oh, the pleasure is mine. The pleasure is mine. I'm very good. Thank you. Yes, I understand we've been talking about the disparities that our African American servicemen have faced, servicemen and women, and certainly this is an issue that needs to be talked about. One of the things that is often looked at when you go for your VA benefits is they want to know that whatever you're claiming is wrong with you is service-connected. And for some of our veterans, service was quite a long time ago. And what the VA does is they say, well, you haven't treated, in 20 years or so. How can I prove that this is a service-connected injury? And that's very hard for people who don't have health insurance, that haven't had steady income, they haven't had jobs, they've suffered from homelessness. Supplying things like records is not their number one priority when they're trying to put food on the table for their family or a roof over their head. So it certainly is one of the challenges that many people face with the VA when trying to get their benefits. Ways of overcoming that are getting statements you can either write a statement yourself called a lay statement, get statements from people who know you, specifically if you still know people that you served with that can attest to your injury back when you were in service. But, these are hurdles that our service members have to overcome when they're trying to make a claim for service-connected injuries.
Right. And when you were saying that, I was just thinking about even during the service when you're, actually on the battlefield, or if you're just here in the States and you are on a regular drill. Earlier we were talking about this particular issue about, equity, justice, and equality. And so sometimes when people go in, and we were talking about just in the general healthcare system, there are disparities based on implicit bias and those kinds of things.
Yes.
Where, African American women have a higher mortality rate who are pregnant, right? And 3 times the national average of deaths for white women. And so not being paid attention to, I think that may enter it into the service arena too, when African American goes and sits in front of a provider who has usually their back to them because they're looking at a computer screen for 5 minutes instead of paying attention to the person in general. But especially for the African American, whether they take them seriously or think that they're talking about pain that doesn't exist, or you should be able to handle that kind of pain because you're African American. They actually did studies where they said that a lot of providers thought that African Americans had a higher pain tolerance, so they didn't need as much pain medication. So that factors into how they're being perceived when they actually go for just regular routine care in the VA system, but also in the comp and pen exam world, I guess.
Dr. Arnold, it makes me so angry. It just makes me angry. You're correct. My dealings with African American females, whether it's sexual trauma or even things such as endometriosis that developed during service, they are dismissed so quickly, both in service and after service, and it's really just disheartening. I have personally experienced having to work on those cases extra hard in order to get the attention that we need. So certainly, take up people like me that can help your fight. You talk to your veteran service officer, anything we can do to help you here. I'm glad we're having these conversations. I'm glad these conversations are happening. I'm glad we can at the very least, bring to the forefront the implicit biases that exist, because I think a lot of people don't understand what that is. And I think a lot of people don't want to understand what that is until you really explain it to them. So I'm really glad that, we're in fact having these conversations. But unfortunately, yes, my experience has been that our service members are treated certainly differently at the VA hospitals and clinics. Let's be the change that the world needs to see, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And it's not like everything is terrible in the VA system, but we have to, if I were doing any kind of operative procedure, or if I were treating someone for heart disease, or putting stents in for cardiac bypass, we always analyze what we're doing that could be in the better interest of the patient that we're serving. And if implicit bias is one of those things that's getting in the way, we need to address it. We need to talk about doing no harm first. And if something we're doing is causing harm, we need to root it out and move on from there. And most people who've gone through that kind of sensitivity training and understand what the implicit bias is, all of us have it, first of all, in one form or another. And it's just that in this particular arena, it's particularly harmful when we're dealing with patients, and especially those who were veterans who served, or who are homeless veterans, or women veterans, as like you were saying. So it's not this, to cast this big I got you kind of thing on people. That's not what the purpose of it is. It's really, how do we get by this, and how do we, build a stronger nation? That's what we were founded on.
Absolutely. And, I think sometimes with implicit bias, we don't even realize. So this is kind of a funny story. I've had to go, most of the work that I do is in the regional office, but from time to time I do have to go into the hospitals for things. And I was at the hospital, and they had all of these posters up that said, do not catcall, whistle, tell a woman to smile. And there was just this list, and it made me laugh, because I thought, well, doesn't everybody know that? Isn't that something that just everybody knows that you don't do? But apparently they need to have posters all over to remind people not to whistle at women and catcall. And I mean, this is, within the last year. So
wow.
I think that there's things out there that, we take for granted that you just shouldn't do, whether we were raised right or just know better now.
Right.
So I just think it's funny that, there are some things that we take for granted that we think maybe everybody knows that they don't. So these conversations are certainly needed to be had, because whether one way or another, whether you think people know or whether people don't think they need to know, so yeah, I mean, it's I guess funny, but not funny.
Yes. Yes.
One of the things that we probably should talk about is, if you have a claim pending anywhere in the VA system for a service-connected disability, there are ways to what's called expedite your claim. And one of those ways is through a claim for homelessness or the verge of homelessness. And lately, I have not had to prove that. Sometimes they ask for copies of past due bills or eviction notices or things like that. Lately, I've just been writing a letter that says that the veteran is on the verge of homelessness or financial hardship due to, falling behind on mortgages, being threatened with evictions, having their cars repossessed, not being able to pay their water bill or their sewer bill. Sometimes if you can just tell the VA what the household income is, if it falls below the national poverty guidelines, sometimes that's helpful too. So there are ways to kind of flag your account if you're asking for a service-connected disability if you are suffering a financial hardship. The other things that will expedite your claim are if you are over 75 years old or if you have a very serious illness. So those things are important to bring to the attention of VA if you have a disability claim pending.
Okay, great. And I was just thinking while you were saying that, do you want to give the phone number and your, online, email address? Because, I'm actually a client of that your institution as well, and I've been treated very well, and so I'm really happy with the services. But I think everyone should be taking part of that. so if you can give that for the veterans,
The phone number to call, the best number right now is 414-375-1642, 414-375-1642. Our website is Tabak Attorneys, TABAKATTORNEYS.com. And there you can find more information about our services as far as the veterans that we help. Additionally, we do Social Security, disability work, and there's information on there as well. My name is, again, Irelan Karas. I am a proud graduate of the John Marshall Law School there in Chicago. So I am happy to help, even if it's just pointing in the right direction.
Oh, fantastic. And give that phone number one more time for people.
Absolutely. 414-375-1642.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, and when you say John Marshall Law School, I have some really good friends over there. Professor Singh, he was in constitutional law, was a fantastic person, and Judy Munson with international law. So those are two good friends of mine that I just missed them in this whole pandemic thing. So
it's a great place. It really is. And now it's UIC, and I think it's even more affordable. So that's wonderful.
Oh, great. So so what do you think that a veteran, if they are being mistreated, whether it's a woman who is coming forward with some of the claims that you were talking about, or just in general for our male and female veterans, that they feel like there's some kind of discriminatory practice going on, what should they do? Should they go to another provider? Should they reach out, or how do they deal with that?
There's a number of ways to deal with that. If you're treating at the VA, and you have, sometimes they have the colored clinics that you go to. Typically, when you have a clinic that you're assigned to, you also have a social worker assigned to that clinic, and you should demand to speak to that social worker. That would be certainly the first step. There are ways to go through your Congress people, and they certainly want to hear about these types of mistreatment and just ways we can improve on how we treat people in general. If you are in a certain clinic, you certainly, or, a certain specialty, so if you're being seen for neurology or dental, you should ask to get in touch with the chief of that particular, section of the hospital. And then there's also your regional office. You can go to your regional office and ask to speak to someone in regional. Regional can be a little bit of red tape. They never want to give you out quite their direct phone number, but there are veteran service officers within your regional offices that can point you in the right direction as well.
Okay.
And of course, you can always call me. I'm not. There's a national organization called the NVLSP, and there's also, and they're out in LA, I believe. And then there's another one called the Veterans Consortium, which I am actually a part of. And those are both nonprofit organizations, and they do things such as class action lawsuits. It's kind of like the ACLU of the VA, the NVLSP. So they certainly help with those types of things as well, where I'm a little bit bound where I'm dealing with service-connected injuries, and I don't really go much beyond that. The NVLSP and the Consortium, not only can they help you with service-connected stuff, but they also can help you with things such as upgrading your discharge paperwork, which is a function of the Department of Defense, not the VA. So those organizations can help you with things like that. They can also bring attention, to disparities like we're talking about. And if there is something that needs to be like a class action lawsuit, those are the people that you would talk to. So it would be the NVLSP or the Veterans Consortium. Both of those are national organizations, but I've had great success personally just dealing with them. And if you look up a lot of these lawsuits, the NVLSP is the one who is heading them up. So that would be a great resource.
Oh, fantastic.
And of course, you have the Veterans Benefits clinics at the law schools. Don Marshall has one. Southern Illinois has one. Syracuse has one. I think Harvard has one now. Those places are certainly they're chomping at the bit to handle things like this. And there's something to be said for experience, but I think there's something to be said for a younger attorney or law school who just wants to sink their teeth into it. They've got the get up and go that some of us don't have anymore. So, sometimes.
Well, I don't think that's your problem. I think you still have that go.
Sometimes the determination can just, speak volumes to our experience. So I'd certainly reach out to any of those as well. They've been very successful.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, because there was one thing with Yale Law School. I heard they were doing some kind of research on this issue. I'm not sure where it went or how it's going, but they were looking at discriminatory practices in, the VA healthcare benefits for African-American veterans, and been meaning to go back and take a look and see what, if anything, is being published on that. But, this is really great information. And what do you feel that people need to know about these practices, because you see it from the side of how it's affecting people's lives too. And you were just telling one heartbreaking story about that one person with the fibroids and that kind of thing, and was going through some trying to get this connectivity so that people realized what was going on. But what would you recommend for those people who are in service right now, or as far as maintaining their records, making sure they have things annotated correctly in their records? I've gone to the VA before where, I've had medical care where I don't think they wrote down 1/10 of what I was telling them.
I know.
They were writing down what they were thinking and not what I was saying. And so, how can we make sure that people, have that connectivity?
Well, obviously, you want to make sure that you have all of your records. So make sure you're continuously getting a copy of your records. Make sure you're a good advocate for yourself. If there's someone who's a good advocate for you, like your husband or wife, bring them along too. Have them, tell the doctor or the clinician what needs to be told. But you need to keep good track of your records. If you don't feel like you're getting good care at the VA and you have the ability to go to an outside provider, you should do that, and you should make sure that, you have copies of all of those records as well. But one thing I did want to mention before we ran out of time is, it has really come to the attention of everybody in this practice area that the military sexual trauma of the early 80s, specifically against black men, is a much bigger problem than we ever realized. And those people that happened to that, may have some mental health issues now, or even physical health issues, keep fighting the good fight with that. Have your voice heard. If you don't tell your story, we're never going to know. And it's really very heartbreaking. It oftentimes is a rank and file sort of situation. But we are seeing military sexual trauma against young black men that happened in, the 80s really coming to the surface right now. And the government is trying to do studies on racial disparities, and they have ordered all the branches of the government, of the military, to come up with their basically their story of it. And I believe the last I heard, the Air Force was the only branch that complied. So we really need to make sure those stories are heard, and you really need to make sure you get any compensation that you deserve. So if you're one of those people, I know that, it happens across the board. It happens to men, women of every color, but it's just it's coming out shocking at a shocking rate that we didn't realize from about 40 years ago. So, if you're one of those victims, and you haven't reached out, reach out to me. I'll be happy to help you get started on that road to recovery.
Oh, thank you. And again, make sure that you take that phone number down, the 414-375-1642, and that's tabakattorneys.com, TABAKATTORNEYS.com. And, we're running out of time now, but I really want to thank you personally, and I want to thank you for what you do for all of our veterans every day. You and your entire Tabak Law Firm are a godsend to many people, have helped them off the streets and have helped them out of really tough situations. It's not just an issue of physical health, it's behavioral health and mental health as well, to restore people's lives. So thank you so much. And Monica Irelan Karas, the Veteran Benefits Attorney Extraordinaire, with I had to add that, with Tabak Law Firm based out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, with offices located across the USA. Thank you, and your godsend, 414-375-1642. And
thank you, Dr. Arnold, and thank you for doing this. I think it's a very important segment you guys did today.
Oh, thank you. And stay with us. We'll be returning in one moment. Don't go anywhere. Don't be square. Stay here. Bye.